Last week, we talked about how meditation is really the foundation of our spiritual practice, at least here with the path that we are on. And because there are so many different types of meditation practices out there, I wanted to take today's class to talk about some of the different styles of meditation and what the objectives are in each type of meditation so that you don't have any doubts about the different practices that are available for you, and also in helping you understand or maybe know which is the best practice for you. So we're going to go through 4 types of meditation. And this is actually going to cover a lot of different meditation practices, but I want to use a camera as our analogy for looking at them. And we're going to start with the lens. So if we imagine we are zooming in on our camera lens, we're really narrowing our focus on something that we want to look at. This is where concentration meditation would be. And concentration meditation is where our attention is on an object. Typically, that's the breath. It could be a mantra. And when we're meditating in this way, when our attention is on the object and then our attention wanders, we are not concerned in the slightest with what our attention has wandered to or where it has wandered to. If it was a thought, a sound, a physical sensation, that's not relevant. The only objective is to bring your attention back to the object, to the breath, to the mantra, to bring your mind into a state of calm, of tranquility, of relaxation, because our minds are very distracted so much of the time. So concentration meditation is really, its initial objective is to calm the mind, to focus the mind on an object so that we're more centered, we're more balanced. And then if we take our lens out a little bit more just to the regular view, so we're off of the zoom and we're just in the regular lens, this is where we could think of mindfulness meditation, also called vipassana or insight meditation. In this practice, the breath is still used as an anchor for our mind, for our attention, but it's a very loose anchor in that when the mind wanders, we are going to spend a little bit of time looking at where our mind has wandered to. If it's wandered to a sound, to simply note the sound, maybe stay with it for a moment, notice the impermanence of it, notice the emptiness of it, and then return your attention back to the breath. Maybe it's a physical sensation, and you note it, physical sensation, discomfort, pain, and then you notice the impermanence of it, the intensity, and then it's coming back down again. Even when it's chronic pain, there's an intensity and it comes back, and maybe you notice that for a little bit, staying with the impermanence of it, and then you bring your attention back to the breath. And if it's a thought that your mind has wandered off to, you can note thought, or you can get a little bit more specific. If it's clear to you what type of thought, it's a planning thought, it's a chasing the future thought, it's a thought about lunch. It's amazing how many thoughts we have about food. It's a resisting thought, it's a judging thought, it's a comparing thought. And so there's a taking note of that, of where your mind was actually going to before you bring your attention back to the breath. In this way, we're becoming more familiar with the contents of our mind, of where our mind keeps going to, and the stories that we're telling ourselves. So we get a little bit more awareness, a little bit more insight into what's happening in our mind, and also the way that we are relating to our external environment too. Now, if we take our lens out to the wide angle lens, this is where open awareness meditation would be. Mostly you'll find this in Zen centers. And in open awareness meditation, there is no anchor for your attention. You are simply here in the present moment with whatever it is that's arising. So if a sound is arising, you're with the sound, you're noticing the sound. There's no commenting on it. There's no labeling it. You are just here with the sound. A thought comes along and you see the thought, and then it goes, a physical sensation. Something else, a fly comes on you, you feel the fly, and you notice it, and you're at one with it. And the objective here is to just be, to learn how to be in this moment without always reacting to everything. So these three types of meditation, while not exclusively Buddhist meditations, they would all be considered part of the progressive path, the gradual path. And as we have been doing in these classes, we also explore the direct path teachings of self-inquiry. So in this style of meditation, we don't have a lens. We're not looking through the lens. What we're doing is we're asking, who's taking the picture? Who is it that's behind the lens, right? It's the direct path. So this is where we ask the questions. Who am I? Am I aware? Who is it that's suffering? Who is it that's irritated? Who is it that's angry? This is where we look within our experience to see what is it that's always here. Remember, everything is arising and passing away. Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, sounds, physical sensations, sights. Of course, our eyes are closed in our meditation, but everything is impermanent and changing. But there is something that's always here, that's aware of it. So in self-inquiry meditation, we are turning back to say, who is it that's aware? Or what is it that's aware? What is it that's taking the picture? Who is it that's irritated? And in that way, having that direct awakening experience in that moment, experiencing the awareness that we are, the universal awareness, the universal consciousness, the true self with a capital S. In mystic language, in the Christian mystics or the Sufi mystics, God's infinite presence, the absolute. Now, every one of these meditations is taking us here. Every meditation will awaken us. That's the ultimate objective. They have initial objectives in the progressive path: concentration, calming the mind, mindfulness, becoming more, gaining more insights and awareness of what's happening in your experience. And then an open awareness, learning to be with what it is, be with the present moment, be with whatever it is that's arising. But ultimately, they are all taking us to the same place, to the awakened state. But it doesn't mean that one meditation is better than the other, that one is more superior than another. They're all taking us there. And we all have an affinity for one type of meditation over another. It's like some people like Coke, some people like Pepsi. Why? I don't know. But it's just we have an affinity for one type of practice over another, or depending upon where we are in our practice, a different type of meditation might be more appropriate. So as a general rule, though, I would say my own experience and what I would recommend is that if you are new to meditation, start with concentration. Start with a breath, start with a mantra. These are really good ways to help calm your mind. Our minds are overly distracted. The thoughts are just swimming around. And so we do need to get that relative state of calm in our minds. Now, that does not mean, because I'm saying to start at concentration meditation, that it is a lesser form of meditation. As I said, none of these meditations are superior. You could do a breath meditation, a mantra meditation for the rest of your practice, and you could wake up there. That's perfectly good. So, and many people also start out with mindfulness meditation, start out with open awareness, start out with self-inquiry. And that's totally fine as well. If that works for you, then that's fine. It is what works for you. I'm just saying this as a general guideline. And even just to give you a sense, within concentration meditation, there are a whole lot of other meditations. And in the Tibetan Buddhist practice, while they do start with a breath meditation, go to mindfulness meditation, they come back to concentration meditations, to the more advanced types of practices, or intermediate to advanced, of the contemplation meditations, where the object is a teaching, emptiness, impermanence, interdependence, cause and effect. So where the object of the meditation is the contemplation. So you are still concentrating your attention there. You're familiarizing your mind with a teaching. That's very powerful. And there's also visualization practices. And in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, these tantric yoga visualization practices that a lot of you here did together with me. We did in the Sunday classes. Something very similar to that. We talked about the reasoning behind it, really understanding and familiarizing your mind with the qualities of the different deities that you were doing these practices on. So again, really focusing your attention on a particular object. So that's concentration. It's not just the breath. It's not just the mantra. There's many different ways of different visualizations, of contemplations, of prayers. And within concentration meditation are all the heart-centered practices as well, which you could do all these practices or any one of these practices as your foundation practice, but you can also use them on a as needed basis as well. When you really need to get in there to get something out that your breath meditation's not working, your mantra, your mindfulness, your mind is just too angry or irritated with some person. So you're dealing with a difficult person in your life. And while you don't wish that person to be here, you can't let them go from your thoughts. This is where loving kindness meditation is a great meditation, because it really pulls the thread out of the story of what you're telling yourself about that person, really freeing you from it. So it really gets in there, it gets to the heart of the problem. And if you feel like you're doing a lot of comparing to other people and some jealousy is coming out of that, sympathetic joy meditation. And we've done that. We did that a few months ago. So it's one of the recordings, one of the classes on YouTube. And to really, have that mindset of sharing the joy of other people's wins. It's so much better than comparing ourselves and being jealous of what someone else has. If we find we're worrying a lot and there's just something we just can't get the worrying out of our mind, do a gratitude meditation. Gratitude is abundance. It's getting our mind on all the things that we do have and all the things that are working. And so it balances that out a little bit for us. It doesn't necessarily take away the difficult event that's happening, but it gives a little more balance to it. If we're judging someone, if we're judging ourselves, compassion meditations. These are amazing meditations to bring us into that state of remembering that people are really going through a lot of difficulties. There's a lot of suffering happening in the world. And we forget that when we're judging other people, even when we're judging ourselves. And so compassion meditations can be amazing. If someone's hurt us and we're angry, we're bitter at them, creating a lot of resentment in our minds and our hearts, forgiveness meditations, the forgiveness prayer. And we've done that meditation as well. We've done all of these meditations. So, to know that these meditations are also here for us when we are going through a particular situation, an experience where the mind is so attached to something, a story, that we can't let it go, that the heart-centered meditations really have a way of getting in there and just digging it out for us. Because as I've always said, when the heart is open, those wisdom teachings just drop right in. So it really helps to free us from whatever it is that we are challenged with. So we have a lot of practices and we have a very big toolbox. And that's what I want us to take away from this. There are a lot of different meditation practices. You will have an affinity for particular meditation practices, and great, because the best meditation is the one you will do. Don't let anyone tell you that there's one best meditation out there. It's not true. It depends on what's working for you, and it depends on which one you will do. And of course, the real test on all of this, or measure, is your practice helping you to be kinder, more present, more forgiving, more patient? Do you find you're letting things go more easily? That you notice your mind racing into the future and you go, my happiness isn't there, I'm just going to bring it back. Do you notice your mind maybe starting to get resentful about something that happened back there and you go, that's already happened, I'll just come back into the present moment? If that's your experience, then your practice is working, then you're doing the right practice for you. But if for any reason you're not sure, of course, reach out to me, let me know. And not just here on our call, you can stay after, but for anyone that's watching this on YouTube, email me, let me know what you've been doing, what kind of things, why you're coming to meditation. And we can recommend a practice that's good for you. Or if you're going through a particular instance and I didn't maybe list what that situation was, there are practices. These are all tools to help liberate us. The goal is not to be a great meditator. Sometimes people get confused with that, particularly in our very competitive society. It's not to be a great meditator. All of these practices, these tools, are to liberate us, to free us from the suffering of believing we are the ego, of being in that chasing and resisting mindset, the fear, right? It's to free us from that so that we can live more in the present moment. We can live more in the awareness of our true nature and feel that sense of kindness and love and just this sense of just sharing this experience with all beings. And really the wonder of all of this that we take for granted because we're so lost in our ego all the time, trying to manipulate the world for some fleeting moment of happiness.